What's going on, guys? Boss6 here, back to another video, and today here to give you guys yet another album review. And this one I had some expectations going into it because I'm a big fan of their 80s stuff, and I was really anticipated to check out this album. And of course, this is the newest offering from Dark Angel with Extinction Level Event. This comes out on the 5th of September of 2025 on Reversed Records. Now, this is either their fourth or fifth studio album, depending on who you ask, whether We Have Arrived is actually a demo or an album. Depends on who you ask, but it's either the fourth or fifth album. And this band formed in LA in 1981, and these guys are kind of considered underground thrash heroes, essentially, because a lot of bands came out of the LA scene. Obviously, the big ones like Overkill, Testament, Exodus, Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer, Megadeth. All those bands really came out of that scene. And Dark Angel were kind of the underground scene there, and they never really stood out as much as like the bands I mentioned, but they did have some killer albums, especially in the 80s with Darkness Ascends, Leave Scars, and Time Does Not Heal, and, all that stuff. And this is actually their first album in almost 35 years. And I was a little anticipated for it because I love Darkness Ascends. That is a killer album. Time Does Not Heal is pretty solid. I really enjoy Leave Scars. And, of course, I'm a big Gene Hoglan fan. I'm a whore for that guy. Arguably the greatest drummer of all time. And I was very anticipated for it. And, yeah. This is certainly a thrash album that came out in 2025. Now, before I get into this album, I do want to kind of give a couple positives with this album because I really didn't write a whole lot of notes for it because there generally wasn't a whole lot going on with this one, but I'll give my quick positives with this album. I think there are some decent riffs on this album. There are some solo riffs on a couple tracks, like Circular Firing Squad, which was one of the singles that they put out. There's some like chuggy groove on Woke Up the Blood. There's some like Slayer dive bombs on Advanced-Stick. I think that's how you say it, or Advastic. Skillier Weaponry, I think it might be my favorite track on the entire album. That is just a full-on thrasher. Scarface the Room is actually not that bad of a track. There's like a big death metal like groove on E Pluribus Nemo. And Extraction Tactics is actually pretty solid. But that's all I can really give a positive review on because everything else on this album is so unbelievably flat. Like, this album is dull from almost the opening track of the title track where the riffs are decent. There's some halfway decent leads. It's actually worth mentioning that on the personnel, actually, Lorna Christine, who was the wife of Gene Hoglan, is actually doing guitars. And she doesn't do a half-bad job. Same with Eric Meyer. They do decent enough with what they were given. But Ron Reinhardt's vocals are very dull on this album. Like, he's got more of a hardcore delivery, but the problem is it does not fit on this album whatsoever. Like, the vocals are laughably bad, especially on tracks like Apex Predator, Terror Construct, and Sea of Heads. Like, what the hell are those vocals? Like, it sounds like he's trying to do auditions for, like, I don't know, like Suicidal Tendencies or something like that. Like, it's kind of weird. Like, he kind of sounds like the bastard child of Phil Anselmo and John Tardy in a way. Like, it's like, oh, like, kind of like that. Like, it's just a very odd delivery. And it just doesn't work with this. Like, if this was like an old school, kind of like hardcore thrash kind of band, maybe it would work. But this is a band that was borderline death thrash on Darkness Descends. And it just doesn't work. Like, you get some kind of like death metal like moments on this album, but it's so few and far between. It just does not work on this album. Like, I don't think the songs themselves are necessarily bad. The songwriting is not really the worst thing in the world. But the problem is that damn near everything else is very, very, very weak. And I need to talk about the production. The production on this album is just terrible. This is a dog shit production. And I'm not... Who even mixed this thing? Let's see. This was mixed by Mike Frazier. Okay, he's done production for AC/DC and all that stuff. And Rob Shawcross, he engineered this. I don't know who that guy is. I don't know what the hell happened. Even Gene kind of helped produce this album too. But this album's mixing is just very poor. Like, the drums in particular sound like shit. Like, it sounds very clicky. It almost sounds drum machine-ish, which makes no sense because you have Gene fucking Howland, the atomic clock behind the kit. I don't know why you have to sound like a drum machine for that, per se. The bass might as well just not even be here. Like, Mike Gonzalez, he might as well just not even be on the album. The guitars themselves are okay, but they don't have a lot of beef to them. They just sound kind of... They just feel like background noise. And the vocals are just laughably bad. Like, again, I don't know what the hell is going on here. Like, there's kind of like some weird kind of backing vocals on this album, and it just takes away from the songs themselves. And not to mention, too, the run length for this album is nearly 50 minutes. You could have cut this down to, like, maybe 40, and you really wouldn't be missing a whole lot. Like, the longest track on this entire album is 5 minutes and 17 seconds, and you kind of feel the run length. Like, there's some, like, kind of stock groove metal on this album, and it just drags. It really, really, really drags, and there's not a whole lot of substance to this album. Like, even the more thrashier cuts on this album, like Scalier Weaponry, really don't have a whole lot of meat to them. Like, it's a very dry album. Like, there is nothing to this that really stood out. And also, this doesn't have to do with anything with the album itself, but it does have to do with the marketing. The album artwork for this is dog shit. It is so CGI, AI-ish. It is laughable for how bad this album artwork is. I'm probably going to post the cover artwork for the thumbnail, but you guys will know what I'm talking about. But yeah, like, this was recorded in July of 2024, and it was through February. So this was nearly recorded in about 6 to 7 months, and it clearly shows. Like, the production on this album is very, very, very flat. I don't know what to say here. There were actually a couple songs that were actually dedicated to Jim Durkin. I think that's how you say his name. That's kind of a goofy name, but he actually passed away in 2023. So there were some songwriting credits for him that were actually on this album, so I can kind of respect that. But yeah, this album just did absolutely nothing for me. I've got nothing of positive to say with this one. And this is probably the worst album I've heard so far this year. I would say the new Catatonia, because that was a very disappointing album, but I didn't fully listen to it in full. I was going to, but unfortunately time got away from me. But man, this album is just not good. I'm sorry, guys. I was shocked for how weak this album is, but I did hear that the singles they put out weren't that great. So yeah, and that kind of sucks too. Like, sometimes when you have like a weak single, usually the rest of the album is really good. Like, for example, a more recent example the latest Alice Cooper solo album, Road, that came out in 2023. The singles they put out weren't that great, but the rest of the album was really damn good. This is not a clear indication of that. It's just weak singles on top of a very, very, very flat album. Yeah, I've got nothing to say here. The vocals are very flat and dry. They're laughably bad. The guitars are okay, but there's not a whole lot of meat to them. The drums sound very, very, very thin. They sound drum machine-ish. The songwriting is not the worst thing in the world. The songs themselves are not bad, but the production just kills it for me. I don't really have any more positive things to say. I'm gonna give this a star and a half, like a quarter, 1.5 stars. I am not a fan of this album. This album did nothing for me. Like, there's a couple tracks I don't mind, like, again, like Skillier Weaponry, Scarface the Room, and maybe Woke Up the Blood's not that bad, but everything else on this album is just a cluttered mess. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of things I can really say about this album other than avoid it. You aren't missing really anything if you choose to skip this album. It's just a flat listening experience, front to back, nothing more, nothing less. I was very disappointed with this album, man. Probably the most disappointing album I've heard all year, which is kind of sad because I really enjoy this band's early output, but again, like, sometimes that's not always the case when an old school act is, coming back and trying to make an album in the modern era. Like, again, look at Morbid State, for example. They put out a killer album last year. That was in my top 5, but sometimes bands they just weren't able to adjust. And unfortunately, Dark Angel was one of them. So, yeah, star and a half for me. I'm not a fan of this album whatsoever. But those are my thoughts. What did you guys think about this album? Let me know in the comment section below. Make sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment, tap that bigger subscribe button, and tap the bell so when I upload, you guys be notified. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Most importantly, join the herd. Till you guys next video. Peace out.